Good morning everyone. We got back from my mum's, or at least my brother's, quite late last night, so I'm absolutely knackered. My eyes are blood red, but Molly needed to get up and get out, and I'm glad we did, because it's a beautiful morning. The leaves have almost gone off the trees now. I don't know whether you can see them around me, but it's mild. It feels like it might rain, but I don't think it's going to. It's cloudy, but all around me, it's cloudy over me, but I've got my own microclimate, I think, because all around me on the horizon, it seems to be a lot brighter. But it's mild, it's almost warm, it's very, very still. Nothing's moving. There's lots of people out this morning, but we're going to carry on and find somewhere a bit far from the madding crowds. It's been a hectic few days, but my mum, I think we've found her a home. I think we've found her somewhere to be. I'm not say to live, because it's not good for her. But I went up and I went to see her a couple of times. I went up to my brother's, and she's in a it's like almost like sheltered accommodation. Everybody has their own flats. So and there's kind of the staff on, but you're left in your own house kind of thing, which isn't ideal for her because she cannot move. She needs 24-hour care. The stroke thing doesn't seem to be getting much better. She can just about move her right arm. But I went up, and she's been dying to see Molly. So I went and I took Molly in to see her, and she was fast asleep when I went in, and I know she's not been sleeping. So I just sat by the side of the bed until she kind of finally woke up. And she's got one of these, it's a hospital bed with like cot sides on it. So she woke up and she wanted to see Molly. And I held Molly, and Molly kind of put her front feet on the edge of the bed and was stretching forward with her face, because she loves my mum, and I think she's missed her and she recognises her. And my mum was like smiling and stroking her and telling her she loved her and everything like that. And these two were like just there with noses against each other, just having a wonderful hello time. And I thought to myself, she's not going to get any better. She knows she's not going to get any better, and this is it. And I've never heard her complain once. I've never heard her complain. She's been positive all the way through this. She's been super positive. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I mean, she can hardly talk. You can't really tell what she's saying. You know, you have to kind of, it's like speaking some kind of an almost a foreign language, and you have to pick out bits of it. But she's saying, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I know she's not. And I think deep down inside she knows she's not. But she's never complained. And I just thought, how tough are these people that were born nearly 100 years ago in a totally different world, without social media, without too much news. You read your news in the newspapers. It was the news you needed to hear about crises across the world and that kind of thing. And my ex-mother-in-law, I knew her for years and years, and she had multiple sclerosis. She was bedridden when I first met her. And then when I eventually got divorced, she was still exactly the same. She couldn't move her hands at all. She couldn't move. She had to be hoisted and out fed. Everything. She was just like this stationary body lying in the bed. And I never heard her complain once. And she was always sparkling and smiling and supportive of everybody else, and put everybody else's problems before hers. And my mum's a bit like that now. She's like, never complained. She's never mentioned once about how this might affect her, about how unhappy it's making her feel. And I know it must be. What a remarkable generation. Has society changed naturally? Has society changed organically? And I say society's changed, and I don't think anybody can kind of argue against that. It has, we know it has. people had less. Life was tougher, and I think people just reacted to that. I think people were tougher, were more practical, because they weren't given the opportunity to mourn about it so much, mourn about life so much. Because now, if you mourn about life, nobody says, shut up and get on with it, like they used to. People say, oh dear, come here, we'll look after you. And I just think that feeds people's need for sympathy, really. And I think how is it, where's it going to end? What's it going to end up as? How needy for each other's affirmation and approbation, and for people to tell you you're a good boy and a good girl, and you're doing right and you're doing good, and everybody else is wrong, and you're the one who's right, and you're the victim, and you're the sufferer. How long does that go on? Where's the natural conclusion in all that? I was watching this thing on telly this morning, on YouTube. I think it was an interview from yesterday, and it was an 100-year-old veteran in his uniform, little old man, very proud, very frail, and he was explaining to these two, let's just say, idiots, about how he thinks the world has changed, and he actually said he wished all his friends hadn't died. He'd gone into battle with his friends at either side of him, and there he'd watched them fall and he'd watched them die. And he said he kind of regretted it now, because of the way the world is going, the way people are violent to each other, the way people are taking advantage of everything, just the way the world has gone. And I think we all know what he means. Even these two idiots knew what he means. And one of them, who I already thought was a complete idiot, said to him, what do you mean by that? Now, he was a little old man, very nice, very polite, and just kind of tried to explain. I would have got up, I would have taken that presenter, and I would have shoved his head up his arse for saying something as stupid as that, because we know what he means. We know what the world's like now, compared to what it was when this old fella was a 20-year-old, 80 years ago. I wonder if it's the advances in technology that have given people the opportunity and the platform to cry about their own ills, to cry about what's wrong with them, about looking for this people to pat them on the back and say, yeah, don't worry, you're the important one, don't worry. We'll all gather round and tell you how sorry we are for you and how much of a victim you are. Because I think things are vastly different than they were 8 years ago. They're vastly different than they were when I was a kid, say 60 years ago. Not all of it bad, a lot of it good. Great advances in technology, in medicine, in education, if the education is used to educate rather than indoctrinate, as it sometimes is. It's a different world, things have moved on. That generation that laid down its lives in the Second World War, the First World War, they've all gone. The ones who laid down their lives and who fought for us in the Second World War, there's only a handful of them left, and then they'll be gone. Conflicts are going on all the time, but people seem to hold the world wars in some kind of reverence, and so they should. I don't think before or after there has been such a huge loss of young life, of young potential for countries all over the world. Look at places like Russia, the millions and millions that died in the Second World War. It's tragic, but people don't know. And you can't blame the younger generations, I don't think, because they aren't taught this. It's abstract. It happened years before they were born. It doesn't mean anything to them, but it actually should, because it made the world what it is. It gave them the freedoms they've got to say things like Adil Ray said to that veteran on that television programme that brought so much ire and anger from the public. My mum's generation laid down their lives so they could do that, and now we've got people bleating like buggery all over the world about the injustices that they feel. By all means, if you've got genuine injustices put against you, then shout all you possibly can. Get as much justice as you possibly can. But don't moan about the small, don't sweat the small stuff. It was just like yesterday when I was sitting watching my mum trying to stroke Molly's head with a half smile on her face, because only half her face is working, that I thought, how tough. There was no complaint. She's never complained once about what's happened. And my ex-mother-in-law, she was remarkable. She never complained. She laughed. She was supportive. She never complained once. She did everything she could to help, and she couldn't move. She couldn't move her hands. They were like two claws. And she never complained. I never heard her complain once. What a remarkable person. And I hope we've got them. I hope they're still out there. I really hope they are still out there. I'm sure they are. I've got loads of faith in the generations that are coming through. I think the only thing is that we just see them on the media, the ones that are craving media attention, the ones that have a lot to say about nothing, and have usually not got a great deal between their ears. But they're out there. Your sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters, they're out there. Tough. Making life better. We will make life better for the generations that come through. I believe they're still out there. I believe they're out there in their thousands across the globe. All the Douglas Baders and Sancho Panzas. I believe they're out there, but I just believe that the ones who are going to save the world are not the ones who are shouting the loudest, are not the ones who are craving attention, who are not the ones asking people, what do you mean by that, when talking to some 100-year-old bloke that saw his friends blown apart in the Second World War and then looks round him and despairs at what the world has become. And I think if you're in the UK, you know exactly what I mean. It's not what it was. And I know there's lots of people out there going to say, ooh, old boomer, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But the fact of the matter is, yes, I do. When you get to 70-odd year old, you do know what you're talking about because you've actually lived through it, and you're not getting your opinions off some mouthpiece who's just indoctrinating you with their own opinions. You've formed your opinions. And I think something is going to have to happen. There's got to be some change of direction. There's got to be kind of a bit of common sense. We've got to have a common sense generation coming through. Because we've not had a lot of common sense in the last 15 years. People will step up. Young people will step up. They're out there. All the heroes, all the leaders, they're all out there. They're all out there. Humans don't change. Just opinions change. Humans don't change. It's the world around them. And opinions of others. Opinions of dangerous people. Opinions of people who influence people without really having the knowledge and the gravitas or the responsibility to mould people's minds. The people who are influencing the kids of today are usually a bit dim, selfish, just looking for praise, looking for a pat on the head, looking for money, looking for this, without any regard for what's going on around them, as long as they're all right. And when they're gone, it doesn't matter because they're gone. I worry about the world that's coming after me. When I'm that little old man lying in a bed after a stroke, I'm hoping I can go through it with a stiff upper lip, try not to be a burden on someone else, trying to still be supportive to people around me. And I think we need that, and I think we've lost it a little bit. I think we've lost our way. I think the human race has lost its way a little bit, but not too much. And I do think a lot of it is down to technology, because it's so easy to get your opinions out there. You just look, we've got the news, we've got things like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all those different social media that are peopled by younger generations who are more open to influences, who are all more open to indoctrination, which is as it should be, because young minds are soaking up information. Just as long as you're strong enough and bright enough and sensible enough to take in that information and then sift through it and say, that's bollocks. What he just said there, that's bollocks. But what she said over there, I can go with that. I can go with that. As long as we've still got people who are bright enough and strong enough and sensible enough, because we will need leaders. All these people on TikTok going around, these influencers, all these people pranking people for likes and for money, they're not going to lead the world. They're not going to be in positions of authority and responsibility, because they're not responsible now. But the people must be out there, but they're I don't see them as much, do you? I don't see them as much. Even my own grandchildren, much as I love them, and they are sensible lads, very, very sensible lads, I can't see them taking on the responsibility of high office, because it is a responsibility. They don't make them like they used to, and it's a shame. And this old bloke, 100 years old, sitting there with his medals on, having some prat in his 20s or his 30s, when he's saying like about how things have changed, and he says, well, what do you mean by that? We know. He'll come up and say, well, I just needed him to explain it just for the camera. No, you didn't, you dick. You didn't. You were goading him, weren't you? You were baiting him. You were baiting a little old man. Adil Ray, you were baiting a little old man. And you are below contempt. And there you go. And that's my opinion. Here endeth the lesson for today. Whether it's your opinion or not, that's the thing. I'm allowed to voice my opinions. And if you think I'm talking bollocks, you can come on here and tell me I'm talking bollocks, and that's absolutely fine, and that's just as it should be. And I'm out here now, and nearly all the leaves have gone for another year. But it's still warm, it's mild. The birds are singing, there's not a breath of wind. Molly's pottering about, she's enjoying herself. It's beautiful, it's like a fairy grotto. It really is. The birds singing over there. The sun's out. I don't want to go home, and we've found somewhere now. We've been inundated with humans, but we've found somewhere now without humans. A little place that we've sometimes come to, that we've been to before, to record from, and it's just thick brown leaves on the ground, hardly any on the branches above us, and that's it for another year. 2025. And what has the world learned in 2025? I don't know. Not a lot from what I can see. Not a lot from the way people are behaving all over the globe. I sometimes want to just take myself away. If I could build a little hut here that would withstand the weather, nobody knew I was here, and I could get food and water, I'd live here. I'd come here, away from the madding crowds. I would. And I think there's a lot of people out there would too. And that's my moan for the day. More upbeat stuff next time. But until next time, we shall see you on the flip. Peace and love.